Hey everyone, and welcome to this month's leadership video, which is all about leading through crisis. As you all know by now, several weeks ago, the roof blew off our building. Talk about a crisis. So often our instinct in crisis is to do a few things. One, we panic, we freak out, we don't know what to do, we don't become productive because we're just panicking. Maybe our instinct is to fix it, automatically try to get things going and get through the crisis. Maybe some of our instincts is just to run away and end up in a fetal position in a corner somewhere, crying about whatever it is that we're going through. But in crisis, we actually have an incredible opportunity as leaders to shine, to build trust with those that we're leading. So today we're going to talk about a few things that we can do in crisis to really help strengthen that trust and our leadership. The first thing that we need to do is provide calm. Now, sometimes this is tough for us. It's the opposite of our instincts that we already mentioned. It's the opposite of what we feel. But the first thing that we need to do is to try to calm ourselves. Now, often in crisis, that's what we try to do. We try to say, okay, it's going to be okay. Take a breath. And that's good. That's fine. Analyze our emotions and try to calm ourselves. But as believers, we've got a little bit of a different take on it. In Philippians 4:6, it says this: "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." So calming ourselves doesn't just come from digging deep and willing that emotion away, but through prayer and petition, thanking God for what He's doing despite the crisis and in the situation that we're in, and then giving over all of our requests to Him. When the roof blew off, we knew that there were things that needed to be done for sure, but we were also called to not be anxious about those things, to pray and petition God for direction, for solutions, for peace, for wisdom in the situation, and even to thank Him for the work that we knew He was doing in and through us in this difficult situation. After all of that, we presented our requests to Him: a speed for the fix, peace in the midst of it, unity as a church, favor with all of those allowing us to be in the building and passing inspections, financial favor from the insurance company, all of those types of things. After we become calm, we seeking God to help relieve those anxieties that we feel, it's then our time to calm others. We need to remind them of who God is, that His character is the same in crisis as it was before, that the truths of who He is are exactly the same even in the midst of the storm. Sometimes all people want to hear or need to hear is just that it's going to be okay. We can say that with honesty, knowing that God will work things together for the good of those who love Him. We don't want to say things just to pacify people, but we want to remember that all things about God that are true when life is good are true when life is hard. You know, when our kids get hurt, they are feeling it so deeply, the pain of whatever injury it is, that's all they can feel and see. They can't move past it. They cry, they scream, and that's the moment that they're living in. So rather than telling them how we're going to fix it, we just hold them. We calm them. We tell them that it's going to be okay. Sometimes people just need to cry. They need to scream out in frustrations for a minute to their leaders. And all we need to do is just emotionally hold them through it. Let them let it out. Tell them that it's going to be okay. So that's the first one. We need to calm ourselves and help calm others. The second thing that can help build trust and improve our leadership in crisis is to connect. So after we calm, we must connect. This is essential for several reasons. As we lead those in the church, those people that we love, we have to have the mentality that Christ had, which was one of a shepherd to his sheep. We've talked many times about the passage in Proverbs 27, verse 23, that says this: "Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds." Well, how are we to know the condition of our flocks if we haven't connected with them? How are we supposed to give them careful attention if we don't reach out and connect? Connection can happen in several ways, but it must start with us. The first thing we have to do is we have to initiate that contact in crisis. Despite all the other things going on, despite the fact that it is our burden to solve and to work through that crisis, we still need to be the ones connecting with the people that we're leading, because in the end, it's all about people. It's first about people. When we do, we just have to listen to them. So yes, we have to initiate, but then we have to listen. Sure, we've got information that we need to convey, but sometimes all people need is for us to say, how you doing through this crisis? After that, they let it out, and we've given them the confidence that we're listening, that we know them, that we know the condition of their heart, and that it gives them confidence to move forward. As we connect, we must remember that it's not just about that first time of connection, that first time that we initiate. We need to continue to connect with them as things change. We must remember that those that we're leading, they need us to initiate and reach out repeatedly until we've resolved that crisis. Now, connecting can build a solid trust that allows those that we're leading to give us grace, not only in this crisis, but in ones that we're going to face going forward. When a leader initiates, when we initiate that contact, and when we listen, and those that we are leading believe that we care for them, we've got their best interests in mind, so they're more likely to let us lead them, not only in this crisis, but into the future, even if what we're doing doesn't seem quite perfect or quite what they would do. Now, an added benefit of connecting with those that we're leading in crisis is that we can uncover gifts in those conversations that they have that they can offer to help us in this crisis. Maybe it's just volunteering their time. Maybe it's that they have the gift of finances and they can help financially support us if that's needed in this crisis. Whatever it is, if we fail to connect, we're not ever going to run into those opportunities for them to use their gifts to help us get through that crisis. So we need to connect. The third thing that we need to do is communicate. Once we've calmed them, once we've calmed ourselves, once we've connected to them, we absolutely need to communicate. Communication helps people realize that things are being done in order to fix what's wrong and solve the problem. It gives confidence going forward that not only the problem is going to be solved, but that you, the leader, have the ability and the strength to continue leading. Communication in crisis is absolutely an opportunity not only to grow your leadership, but to gain confidence and trust of those you're leading. But you have to communicate. So if you've calmed your people and you've connected with them, that's great. But at that point, you can't just stop communicating, because people begin to feel disconnected. The first two things you've done, that calming, that connecting, they become useless if you don't communicate. You know, during the summer, we let our kids kind of run the neighborhood. We give them quite a bit of freedom. They go from our house to the empty lot to the neighbors across the street. They run around, they ride their bikes, they do all sorts of things that we really only have the advantage to do during these warmer months. And as long as we have an idea where they are, we're fine to allow that freedom. So if they come and check back and say, hey, I'm gonna go over to this friend's house, or I'm gonna hop on my bike, or I'm gonna go, take my scooter over here, we're good. But as soon as they stop communicating, things change. We begin to be frustrated if we don't know where they are, or afraid that something's happened to them. And it's the same way with the people that we lead through crisis. If we let people know what's going on, that settles them. They're a lot more forgiving if we maybe make errors in the way that we're leading, as long as we're telling them what's going on along the way. The last thing that we have to do is to clarify. It'd be beautiful if communicating was all we needed to do. But as we know, communication is difficult. It's nowhere near perfect. Sometimes I'm amazed that we can build buildings or run organization or make process on projects, because communication is so difficult. The reality is, in crisis, communication becomes even more important than during our regular times of leadership. We all have a tendency to kind of hear what we want to hear, or seek out the answers that we really believe are important or urgent. When we do these things, we often end up getting inaccurate or incomplete information, because maybe they've come through different channels that aren't quite accurate. Maybe they've been heard through different filters because we're each unique individuals. As we lead through crisis, it's imperative that any time that we're faced with this inaccurate information, we clarify that miscommunication. I remember the first week after the roof blew off, I texted somebody and I said, hey, please be in prayer for us so that we can get into the campus that Sunday. This was only a handful of days away, but I didn't have accurate information. We found out very quickly that it was going to be several weeks, if not longer, before we were back into the campus. So I was quick to go back and clarify the miscommunication that I had brought to that person. I was ignorant. I just didn't have all the information. So I went back and I said, hey, it's going to be a while. Please continue to pray, but it's not going to be this week. It's not going to be for several weeks. So sometimes it's clarifying our own communication or miscommunication, but there's another form of clarification during crisis as well. When someone comes to you with inaccurate information, it's critical that you correct that false information with grace and care. We don't want to insult people or come down hard on them just because they've come to us with maybe hearsay that's now coming to them as fact. But we also don't want to let it go uncorrected and spread around with this inaccuracy, because that will eventually cause more difficulty and potentially more anxiety as we try to undo that down the road after more and more people have heard that inaccurate information. So while sometimes clarifying maybe of our own words, other times it may be the thoughts and ideas that people are coming to us with that are just inaccurate. We have to be gentle. We have to know the condition of our flock and their heart, but we have to be clear in the way that we're clarifying the things that are inaccurate. The reality is crisis will come. If they haven't already in your areas of leadership, they absolutely will. So often we see crisis just as a bad thing, just to put our heads down and plug through and get through. But the reality is we've got some real opportunities to grow in our leadership and grow the trust of those that we're leading. We can grow our relationships with them and mature in God. Rather than simply just trying to fix things as quickly as possible, we can build our leadership in this way if we do it the right way. If we calm ourselves and those we're leading, if we make sure to intentionally connect with them, if we clearly communicate the things that are going on and gently clarify any miscommunications that we run into along the way. I hope these 4 things help you as you encounter crisis in your leadership. Thanks so much for watching today. As always, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or concerns that you may have.